Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, I want to go and compare and showcase up the differences between the Last of Us TV show that, if you guys know, aired as of yesterday, and as well with the brand new game too that came out only a few months ago with the brand new Last of Us remake. Now, as I'm sure you guys may or may not have had a chance to see, and if you guys did, leave your thoughts and comments on the first episode or any of the episodes if you guys see this in the algorithm later on, because so far everyone has been absolutely in love with the Last of Us show. A lot of really good reviews. Rotten Tomatoes has been saying it's one of the best live action kind of basically performances they've seen in a very long time, especially from the video game genre, and folks alike, either video gamers or not, have really been enjoying this story, and hopefully this will not fall flat. But the very first episode, if that continues throughout the rest of the season, is looking pretty good. But of course, whenever there is a video game adaptation, whether it comes from Uncharted or the upcoming God of War show, or even Last of Us, people are always kind of very curious to see how it kind of compares to how the game itself is. So I'm going to go and showcase up some of this one, and as well, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on this all down below. So if you guys are new, make sure you guys are subscribed. We do a lot of video game news on the channel, and of course, as well, make sure you guys follow the Twitter and Twitch stream. Check out the HOW link for your Samsung pre-orders down below. Of course, check out the Target Amazon links too, and let me go and showcase up some pretty cool stuff we've seen over here from IGN that's kind of just doing a one-to-one performance over here from all the game and show itself. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of really cool, unique scenes and things we're watching, and I'll probably have no audio on this one just so we don't get copyright over here from HBO itself. I'm gonna make myself a little bit, maybe even, I don't know, get bigger and small over here. I don't know, I guess we'll go smaller so you guys can kind of see the full screen. But as you guys can kind of see, some of the stuff is obviously a little bit of spoilers. Spoiler alert over here, for episode 1. But there's a lot of comparisons in terms of like the show, the theme, the vibes, and everything in between, because sometimes you can see on just how dark some of these episodes might be, how strange some of these vibes might be in general, or like we kind of see some of these scenes in comparisons. So you guys can kind of go and sit over here and stop for a second. We see some of these, and while it's cool to see the comparisons of it, there are a few small altercations. And that's kind of why we're making this video. Where some things, like some of the scenes over here, a good example for the ones we just showed you guys, is we do have some things where like the girl itself, Joel's daughter, is like walking around there, and like here, they're outside. First, the difference with them actually being inside in the game. Now, in my honest opinion, some of the game scenes I think are a little bit more kind of comfy, in my opinion. I think they kind of fit better. Like, I think this is more scary. You're literally in your own literal home. You're literally going and seeing this. And this is also like the driving scene, which is also, once again, very similar in terms of timing, in terms of pacing, in terms of them being scared, but sometimes a little bit more different because if you're the character, you can kind of look in the 360 angle and move your character around, and like even something like this for the game, where I actually kind of prefer the game in some sequences where it just is closer, it's scarier. You see it like live in flow, and this is still realistic, and it's still very, very similar, and maybe it's just harder to actually go and do in a live action, but I just kind of feel like the game's pacing and the vibe actually did fit a little bit better. But as well, it's also kind of harder sometimes to find the same realistic scenarios between the two. So you guys can kind of see like they're trying to go more on the facial animations and trying to show the dialogue. But I almost would want to say like in the game, it's more scary because you're like in the perspective of the little girl and you just don't know what's going on. You're afraid, like you're kind of basically being like in the back seat, literally. First in this one, you still have that same perspective, but it's not really showing in how worried the girl can be and like how scary this whole situation is. Now, granted, the graphics are way better, and it's obviously a lot harder to do some of this stuff in a live action, obviously, and I do think it's done very well. Like, it's a very, very similar prospect. You're still seeing the stuff in the very first episode, and you guys even see it's a very similar scene, but like the lighting's a little bit different, it's changing. Like, this is good. Like, I'm kind of critiquing this a little bit more on how I kind of prefer the game itself, which I think I do. I think I generally do prefer the game a little bit more. But, like, it's really hard to do this in live action. But everything we're seeing, it's so well made. Like, this is literally the TV show. Like, this looks phenomenal. And I can understand why everyone's freaking out on how good it is, because you can even go and have these, like, seamless transitions between the two so easily, Like, look at this. The actors are, like, in the same, like, emotions. They're conveying the same feelings. And as well, it's just really well made. Now, once again, there's a few little smaller things too on this one where I keep on saying, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I just played the game. Maybe I'm impartial. But like, you see the game, and the game itself just has like a little tiny bit more emotion and kind of just, it feels a little bit nicer. I don't know. That's why I kind of want to hear your thoughts and comments down below, because maybe I'm completely wrong. Because it is hard to do this in live action. I've said it like 3 times. But it's cool. I love seeing this. I love seeing like how they're portrayed Joel. And as well, like some of those scenes, like I would say the live action version right there was better. It's more close up. It shows the dramaticness. It shows how crazy everything is here. And like sometimes you just have like Joel in the background, or sometimes the environments are hard to mimic one to one, so you have to remake the entire set. Like for this almost seems more vibrant and more alive. And this kind of maybe how it would be in real life. So maybe just more of like my own thoughts of like my interpretations on this. Or like same thing for this like right here. It just kind of seems more dramatic for the actual game itself. Like it looks way more dramatic in my opinion. Now granted, like I mean like maybe just the punches, I don't know. They just didn't look as realistic, who knows at the end of the day. As we have the nice little just blank stare going on from that one. But like it's good. I really think it's good. Like I am sitting here critiquing and I'm showcasing up the differences and everything. I still think it's phenomenal. But once again, you kind of look at some of these angles. Maybe it's just how a game is. Maybe it's really impossible to get the same exact like perspective base, but it does kind of feel a little bit more in depth with it. So that's one of the cool things over there from IGN, in case you guys were curious in this one. But they've also done a few other things too in comparisons for the trailer as well. So they've kind of done a similar job where they kind of showcased up the highlights between what you have a chance to see from the trailer and how they're showcasing up the game from the remake. Now, something like this, like right there, that does not seem the same. But if you kind of see this one too, once again, it's kind of like sometimes the perspectives. It's still very similar. Like you still have them like relax. You have the watch. You have the like the close-up faces. And I just kind of feel like the game just did it slightly easier and slightly better. But I still think the show has been phenomenal from everything I had a chance to see. Like for this, like maybe this is a good example of what I'm kind of harping on over here. Because once again, I mean, you're a YouTuber. You're meant to talk over this stuff and kind of give you perspectives. Like this is a really hard scene to pull off in real life. This is almost phenomenally hard. So if you guys see the actual official trailer, you have like 3 people and a little barrel. Like we just don't have this many sewer situations over here that you could easily go and assess and go into, and they have like literal tanks and army cars drive over. Like I can respect that and I understand that. For even HBO or a Netflix, it costs a lot of money. But that's why you can kind of see the comparisons where I do think the game just I mean, it's a game, so you can make anything. It's like futuristic, you can encode it, you can make insane, unrealistic scenarios go and happen. But that's why I still have to put so much respect in The Last of Us, because you have to have and work around these limitations. And how close they even still are to doing this, with all this limitation aside, that's insane. Like, it's really hard to find like a random working lower gate like over here on the bottom right with an also open like orbit like this, all this type of stuff with water funnels where you're not gonna get hurt, with tanks driving over it. Like this scenario would be extremely hard to pull off just recording wise and everything else wise. So that's why even comparison for this one, the trailer, it's still really well, like that's still good. Or some of these also might have to be CGI too as well, showcasing this. And it's pretty close in my honest opinion. I think it's pretty close. So, in case you guys are kind of curious on all these like one-to-ones. So maybe as I'm sitting here and rambling, what are some of the biggest thoughts that you guys have had in the difference between the two? Like even the character models are very similar. The characters like emotions, like look at how similar this is. Like I feel like I'm kind of harping on it too much for how good it actually is. But I mean, it's also hard to go have an entire like city environment like this and make this into a game. Like it really is kind of hard to go and do. So that's once again, I have to give them all the credit they possibly can, because like it's really hard to rent out an entire city and have burning cars and everything out this as fluent as it actually has been. Like I think they did a really good job so far. So as we kind of let this trailer go and wind down, I have to be honest, I do kind of prefer the game just a little smidgen more. But that is because it's a game, it's not realistic. Like it's really hard to make an entire city animation like this, where there's literal grass and there's tanks and open fields and a massive city. Like you have to be selective on where you film. I understand the limitations, like some things are just not feasible because they're literally made up and developed in a game. Totally get that, but I think with all of those things considered, this game did a phenomenal way of foretelling the story, and I do think the actual Last of Us HBO show is going to do phenomenal as well, because while it might be small changes, it does seem like it's holding pretty true to the story itself, and like even those 2 scenes right there, that's like almost impossible to do. Like I think for them, it shows the same thing. It shows the same perspective, and it shows that like, well, it's hard to do this one-to-one, obviously, because once again, a game you can make and animate and do whatever in a game. I think for this, like this goes and portrays, in my own opinion, very similar vibes to what they show in the game over here. Now, this is a really hard scene to make happen in real life, don't get me wrong. But I think they did a really good job because it shows how alone, how you're traveling, how like diverse the world is. I think they did a good job. So if you guys want to give me your thoughts and comparisons between the two, let me know in the comment section down below. Would love to hear your thoughts and kind of just see if you guys like it, dislike it, or if you guys like the show. And if you guys want more of these, if I see more on IGN and such, let me know. As well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. As well, check out the Howl links down below too as well. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream too, Target links, Amazon links as well. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place.